Have you ever wondered how much it costs to pretend you're fine? How many times have you smiled while, deep down, all you wanted was to disappear? We grow up hearing that being strong is admirable, but no one talks about the price you pay for it. And it's steep, sleepless nights, a heavy chest, the feeling of carrying a world that was never yours to bear. Carl Jung once said that what we ignore within ourselves destroys us from the inside out. Maybe that's exactly what you feel, a hollow space that even rest can't fix. If this resonates with you, subscribe now, because what you'll hear here is not what everyone else is saying. I'm here to show you that true spirituality isn't about looking strong, it's about acknowledging your own pain. And I promise, if you stay until the end, you'll see your strength in a way no one has ever told you before. So tell me, are you ready to stop pretending? No one is born strong. Strength in this case is not a gift, it's a defense. It's built when pain finds no comfort, when fear has no name, when tears have no one to fall on. Being strong was the only option. Childhood didn't allow weakness. Crying was drama. Complaining was ingratitude. Asking for help was a sign of weakness, so she learned to keep quiet, to solve problems, to endure. Pain became silence, and silence became performance. Carl Jung said that what you resist persists. And she resisted so much that she became the very weight she carried. The world admires those who can endure anything, but no one asks the price. And the price is high, going to bed exhausted and waking up the same way, loving with the fear of being a burden, taking care of everyone but herself. And at the end of the day, the soul, drained, whispers, "No one has ever asked me if I'm okay." But she smiles. She always smiles, because she learned to use her smile as a shield. She doesn't cry in public, doesn't show weakness, doesn't admit when she's not doing well, because no one can handle watching a fortress collapse. The truth is cruel in its simplicity. Those who have always been strong aren't allowed to fall apart. They're admired for being unshakable, but they die a little each time they have to pretend everything is fine. That's when the body starts screaming what the soul tried to hide. Chest pain, hair loss, chronic fatigue, panic attacks. The self is begging to come back, but it's buried under the weight of pleasing others. And when spirituality is real, it doesn't demand strength, it demands truth. And truth, sometimes, is admitting you can't do it anymore, that it's too heavy, that being strong all the time isn't noble, it's self-abandonment, it's violence dressed up as responsibility. And it has to stop, now, or she'll get sick. The cruelest part. No one notices, because the mask of strength is beautiful. She takes care of everyone, solves everything, never complains, but she's dying from the inside out, and that has a name, psychic exhaustion, a kind of pain that doesn't scream, it implodes. The ego loves to maintain this image of invincibility, but the self knows this isn't power, it's a prison. If you're living this, start with one small action. Say no once a week. Just that. Say no when your body needs rest, when your soul is begging for a pause, and watch what happens. At first, guilt shows up. Then comes liberation. Carl Jung spoke about integrating the shadow, and your shadow might be this, the belief that you have to handle everything. You don't. You can stop. You can let yourself fall, because sometimes falling is the only way to finally return to yourself. But not everyone is ready to face the cost of not needing anyone. She learned that asking for help was dangerous, that depending on others was weakness. That trusting was the same as being disappointed. So she built her world alone, high, guarded, functional. But there's a cost to not needing anyone, loneliness. Not the kind that comes from being alone, but the kind that comes from not having a mirror. No one sees who she really is because she abandoned herself a long time ago. Jung said the self dissolves when the persona takes over, and her persona was flawless, strong, productive, independent. But what about her soul? Where is the woman who's tired of having to handle it all? The one who wanted comfort but learned to become her own pillow? The spirituality that heals starts there, when you face the truth that handling life alone might look beautiful to the world, but it's devastating to the soul that just wanted to be seen. Self-abandonment is smiling when your body is crying for help. It's staying silent when your heart is screaming. It's erasing your own boundaries to fit into someone else's space, and the more you do it, the further you drift from your own truth. At first it looks like virtue, like maturity, but over time it becomes illness. Anxiety, insomnia, functional depression, the kind where you keep up with your responsibilities but feel dead inside. Jung said that ignored pain becomes destiny, and the destiny of those who abandon themselves is to become invisible to themselves. Instagram spirituality talks about self-love, but forgets to say that loving yourself starts when you refuse to keep betraying yourself. The cost of not needing anyone is not even being necessary to yourself, because if you don't listen to yourself, the world won't either. It's common to hear someone say, "That's just how I am. I like to handle everything myself." But is that really true? Or is it something you learn through pain? Those who had to grow up too soon often wear this armor the way someone wears survival. But living in a constant war with your own vulnerability has an expiration date. One day, the body gives out. One day, the soul collapses. And when that happens, no one understands because the character is still smiling. The kind of spirituality that integrates the self demands brutal honesty. Who did I become to be loved? Who did I have to abandon to survive? If you want to start reclaiming yourself, here's a practice that's both simple and brutal. Look in the mirror every single day and say out loud, "Today I choose to be on my own side." It will hurt. It will feel strange. But little by little, that forgotten part of you, the one you've hidden even from yourself, will start to return. And with it comes the pain that has no name. She smiled, always. She smiled at work, at home, at Sunday lunch, even at funerals. It was automatic, a conditioned reflex to maintain the appearance that everything was fine. But it wasn't. That smile wasn't joy, it was protection, a shield against questions she didn't want to answer. And the cruelest part? No one suspected a thing, because the world has learned to interpret a smile as a sign of balance. Jung once said that what doesn't reach consciousness becomes destiny, and her destiny was to keep smiling while she was dying inside. Her face showed peace, but her eyes were screaming for help. And no one saw it, because truly seeing requires presence, and presence in today's world has become a luxury. True spirituality begins when you stop smiling to appear strong and start truly listening to yourself. Sometimes that begins with the stillness of a face without expression. There's a kind of pain that has no name. It doesn't fit into any diagnosis, doesn't appear on any test results. It's a pain that lives in the body but was born in the soul. It's the weight of years spent pretending, of relationships where she was never herself, of environments where she had to mold herself to be accepted. This pain wears disguises well, in overproductivity, in constant good humor, in phrases like, "I'm fine," or "I'm used to it." But she's not fine. She never was. This pain, according to Jung, is the cry of the self trying to break through the shell of the persona. And the smile, in this case, is just a bandage over the wound. But a covered wound festers. Spirituality that ignores pain is just another kind of escape. A practical exercise. Spend an entire day without smiling to please anyone. Smile only when you truly feel like it. You'll notice how much your body has gotten used to pretending and how much it's costing you. She began to understand that her smile was her most dangerous defense mechanism, because unlike tears, it doesn't reveal you, it deceives. It makes others believe you're fine, that you don't need help, that you're light, easygoing and put together. But all of that is just a character, and when you play a character for too long, it kills the actor. Jung spoke about the need to integrate the shadow, and her shadow was this: the fear of showing pain. The fear of being judged, of looking fragile, of losing control. But pain doesn't disappear when ignored, it gets repressed. And what's repressed will eventually erupt into an emotional or physical breakdown. That's why a smile, when it's used as a shield, is an act of betrayal. A betrayal against yourself. The first step to breaking it is simple yet brutal, learning not to smile when your soul is screaming. Because sometimes what heals you isn't laughter. It's acknowledging the pain that has always been there, unseen. She slept 8 hours a night but woke up exhausted. She dragged herself through the day with no apparent reason. The medical tests said everything was fine, but she knew it wasn't. Her body was present, but her soul was somewhere else. It was as if part of her had given up on being here. Jung said that the soul suffers when the ego is living a life it doesn't want. That suffering shows up in silent forms: apathy, emptiness, lack of enthusiasm. It wasn't laziness, it was pain. A pain so ancient she no longer knew how to name it. When the self is ignored for too long, it grows quiet. And when the self goes silent, the body begins to scream. And the scream doesn't come as a visible wound, it comes as that fatigue that no amount of rest can fix. Because what's tired isn't the body. It's the soul, dragged along paths it never wanted to walk. Soul tiredness is different from stress. It doesn't go away with vacations, spas, or 2 good nights of sleep. It's the kind of exhaustion that comes from years of being someone you're not, working in the wrong place, loving the wrong people, betraying yourself one day at a time. This kind of fatigue is spiritual. No amount of caffeine, motivation, or mantras will fix it. What you need is a reunion, a radical reunion with your truth. Jung spoke about individuation, the return to the center of your being, and soul tiredness is the clearest sign that you've strayed from it. An example? She replaced her productive routine with simple rituals: waking up earlier, sitting in silence, writing 3 pages of unfiltered thoughts. And there, in the chaos of scattered words, she found traces of what she'd lost. Because spiritual exhaustion isn't weakness, it's the self's alarm, begging, "Find me before I disappear." This kind of exhaustion comes with guilt, because on the outside, everything looks fine. She has a job, a home, a routine. But inside, everything is falling apart. And since no one sees it, she convinces herself she's exaggerating, being dramatic, ungrateful. But she's not. It's just a neglected soul trying to survive. True spirituality doesn't romanticize this process. It says, stop, listen, feel. Because as long as you keep treating soul pain as if it's just a lack of energy, you'll keep sinking. It's like pouring more gas into a car with a blown engine. It doesn't work. The path is different. It's brutal. It's silent. And it starts like this. Take one day to do absolutely nothing, nothing at all, and watch what surfaces. Anxiety will come. Guilt will come. But something deeper will come too, the truth you've been avoiding. And that truth, even if uncomfortable, points to the place where healing starts to whisper. The body speaks, and when the soul is ignored for too long, it screams. It screams through pain that doesn't go away, recurring migraines, stomach issues that appear out of nowhere. It screams through allergies, tension, insomnia that makes no sense. Jung said the unconscious expresses itself through the body when the mind insists on silence. What she used to call "my body's not cooperating" was, in reality, the self begging to be heard. When there's no room to feel, the body feels for you. And feeling without awareness is what makes you sick. Spirituality isn't just found in altars and pretty words. It's in the aching knee, the tight chest, the frozen gut. The body is the diary you never wrote. And when pain appears, it's not punishment. It's an unread letter. And if you don't decode it, it will repeat until you stop and listen. She started to notice that every time she said yes when she wanted to say no, her throat would tighten. Every time she ignored her intuition, her chest felt heavy. Every time she forced herself into certain situations, her stomach turned. And that's when she understood something brutal. The body had always known. It had always screamed. But she called it being sensitive, overreacting, tired. And she kept going, because she was taught to be rational, functional, productive. But the self doesn't respond to productivity, it responds to truth. The body's spirituality is like this: direct, non-verbal, insistent communication. When Jung said pain is the messenger of transformation, he wasn't only talking about emotional pain, he meant physical pain too. Because where it hurts, there's a blockage. Where there's a blockage, there's a lie. And where there's a lie, there's a soul tied up, trying in some way to remember who you are. A simple but unsettling exercise. Take a piece of paper and write down your chronic or recurring pains. Next to each one, write, "What is this pain trying to tell me?" Don't judge the answer. Just write whatever comes to mind. Then ask yourself, what am I not allowing myself to feel? It might seem silly, but it's brutally revealing. The body keeps the secrets the mind suppresses. Jung said that a symptom is the unconscious trying to bring something to the surface. So treat your body with reverence. It's the only temple that's never abandoned you. And when you stop silencing the signs, you might discover that healing doesn't come from outside. It comes from within, through listening. Listening to the body is listening to the self. And the self doesn't lie, but you have to be willing to feel what you've always avoided. And not every ego is ready to face the truth. That weakness isn't an illness, it's a language. She no longer knew how to ask for help, not out of pride, but because of trauma. She had learned that showing weakness was risking abandonment, that depending on someone was an invitation to humiliation. So she built it all alone, her career, her relationships, her image of balance. But inside, she was imploding. Jung said the ego is the center of consciousness, but the self is the center of being. And while the ego kept up appearances, the self was screaming for help. But there was no one to listen because she herself had forgotten how to call for anyone. The spirituality of strength is celebrated, but the spirituality of weakness is rejected. And yet, it's in this latter one that true transformation lives. Because admitting that you don't know, that you can't, that you need, takes a kind of courage most people don't have. But it's in that simple, raw act that the soul begins to come home. Weakness is not failure. Weakness is a doorway. When she finally said, "I can't handle this anymore," something broke, but it wasn't her. It was the illusion of control, the illusion of absolute independence, the illusion that being strong all the time would protect her from pain. It doesn't. It only delays it. It only hardens you. And what's hardened too much will eventually crack. Jung spoke about the importance of surrender in the individuation process. The moment the ego admits that alone, it's not enough. That there's something bigger, deeper, asking to come through. True spirituality begins when pride makes space for humility, when the scream turns into a whisper, "Help me." And there's nothing more human and more divine than that. Because when you ask for help, you're not just admitting limitation, you're making space to be cared for. And the self blooms in the space of care. Asking for help is not just an external act, it's an internal choice. It's the moment you stop sabotaging yourself, stop pretending you're fine, stop trying to save everyone else while you sink. A simple practice: Choose one person you trust and say something honest. It can be small. I'm not doing well today. Could you just listen to me? At first it feels uncomfortable. Later it feels liberating. Pain only dissolves when it's shared. The ego hates this. It wants to solve everything alone, keep the image intact. But the intact image is the tomb of the self. Jung said that what we don't face within ourselves turns against us as destiny, and a destiny that's lonely, guarded, and exhausted is not destiny. It's a prison. Maybe it's time to recognize that the greatest proof of strength is to stop pretending you don't need anyone. Because deep down, everyone does, and the ones who claim they don't are usually the ones begging in silence. She realized that real healing wasn't about learning more. It was about unlearning. Unlearning how to control everything, unlearning how to anticipate every rejection, unlearning how to be strong when everything inside was screaming for comfort. Jung said that individuation requires a symbolic death, the death of the image we created to survive. And for her, that image was the fortress. But every fortress at its core is a prison. Inner surrender isn't giving up, it's letting go of the illusion. It's saying, I'm done fighting myself. And that moment doesn't arrive with beautiful background music. It comes in the silence of a dark room, in the collapse of an ordinary Sunday. It's when she kneels, not out of religion, but out of exhaustion. And for the first time, she allows herself to feel everything she avoided. Spirituality begins on that cold floor, where pain no longer has to be denied, where the self finally has space to return. Unlearning how to be strong means peeling away, one by one, the layers of protection that became your skin. It means facing the fear of being rejected without the performance. It means discovering who you are when you're not trying to please. Jung spoke about the danger of living on autopilot, identified only with the ego, alienated from the self. And the autopilot of strength is one of the cruelest, because it feels right, even admirable, but it suffocates. She began the ritual of surrender with a simple gesture. Stop explaining herself. Stop justifying every no. Stop carrying the world on her back out of fear of being called selfish. And slowly, something inside softened. Anger gave way to sadness. Sadness to relief. Relief to reconnection. There's no formula for this. It's a process. It's raw. It's you standing before yourself with no shield. And it's there, in the discomfort of the real, that the self relearns how to breathe. Want to unlearn how to be strong? Stop running from what hurts, and it doesn't have to be grand. Start with a slower shower, a walk without music, a no without guilt, a yes to yourself. The pain that surfaces is just the beginning. And it does hurt. It hurts because for decades you were taught that allowing yourself was dangerous, that crying was weakness, that depending on someone was failure, but it's not. It's human. Jung said that nothing transforms without first being accepted. And accepting pain, without fighting it, without trying to fix it, is the beginning of the end for the ego, and the beginning of reunion with the self. The ritual of surrender doesn't require candles or mantras. It only requires truth, and the courage to look in the mirror and admit, I'm tired of pretending. When that happens, something shifts. Not outside, but inside. And maybe, finally, you'll be able to hear what you've been avoiding your entire life. The self cries too. Now that everything's been said, what will you do with it? Will you keep pretending you're fine, keep smiling while silently begging for care, or will you finally allow yourself to be seen by you? How many times have you ignored your body's signals just to avoid bothering someone? How many times have you disguised your pain with productivity, with smiles, with strength? And the worst, how many times have you betrayed yourself just to fit into places that were never yours? The truth is, you don't have to be strong all the time. You just have to be whole. And that begins when you say, I deserve to listen to myself. So tell me, what part of you is screaming for care right now? Where exactly do you feel you're betraying yourself in the name of strength? What truth hurts too much to be spoken, but needs to be? Leave your answers in the comments. I read them all, and I want to hear you. And if this video tore something open in you, subscribe now, turn on notifications, and share it with someone who needs this message. Because the more you reconnect with who you really are, the more the world transforms around you. But first, you need the courage to let go, to feel, to be.